Metatron. I.0. Nothingness. The Garden. The author of the Quantum Lullaby fairy tale. I was born in 1973 in Thun, Switzerland. During my teenage years, at the ages of 17 and 21, I had two near-death experiences. It was during this time that I truly began to understand the concept of spirituality, thanks to the guidance and teachings of my beloved grandfather. He loved me unconditionally and recognized the psychic abilities within me, just as he possessed them himself. In fact, it was my grandfather who saved my life by tapping into these spiritual realms. Since then, I have always found solace in returning to my grandfather's garden, a place where we could reconnect and share profound moments. Sitting together, we would enjoy the simple pleasures of eating an apple and sipping on a comforting cup of tea. It was in those peaceful moments that my eyes were opened, and I began to see the world in a completely different light. The flower. Loose intention. Learn, train and align. The big picture. Metatron. Before time. Nothing. The tiny flower. In the vast expanse of nothingness, where size and measurement hold no meaning, existed a realm untouched by manifestation. The hectoverse, the lambdaverse, and even the collectorverse were yet to be. Instead, there was pure nothingness. However, Metatron, like any curious soul, yearned to explore the potential within this vast emptiness, for it is from nothingness that everything can emerge. It was a breathtaking experience to traverse the uncharted territories of nothingness. Time itself was unmanifested, allowing Metatron endless days to discover new and awe-inspiring places. Each location possessed its own unique aura, filling him with unbridled joy. It seemed that the wonders of nothingness would never cease, for every day brought forth new and unseen places, like an ever-unfolding tapestry of beauty. As he ventured further, Metatron found himself growing more connected, unconditional, and deeply enamored with each place he encountered. At one particularly stunning spot, surrounded by the all-encompassing emptiness, he couldn't help but marvel and express his admiration. What could be more exquisite than basking in your radiant beauty, vibrant colors, and enchanting aura, he whispered to the space around him. Suddenly, his gaze fell upon a minuscule, unmanifested flower, delicate blue petals, lush green leaves, and a slender stem. Metatron was rendered speechless by its ephemeral beauty and cherished the precious moment. The following day, his curiosity drew him back to the same spot, hoping to witness the flower once more. This was a rarity, as he often sought out new places, exploring the depths of nothingness. As he settled down in anticipation, Metatron searched for the flower's reappearance, but it eluded his sight. He concentrated on the exact spot where he had beheld it the day before, yet the flower refused to reveal itself. Puzzled, he muttered to himself, "I cannot comprehend it. Perhaps my focus is weak, hindering my perception of the flower today. How strange." Determined to see the flower again, Metatron took a deep breath and, with utmost concentration, held it. Still, there was nothing. Throughout the day, he persevered, growing increasingly disheartened, for it was the first time he had glimpsed this wondrous bloom. Perhaps he needed more training, he thought, attempting to sharpen his focus while exhaling this time. Although he improved in maintaining concentration, the result remained elusive. By evening, exhausted from his efforts, Metatron surrendered to relaxation and introspection. He pondered the discrepancy between yesterday's success and today's failure. Why did it work yesterday but not today? There must be something different about the two occasions, he contemplated. Refusing to give up, he reasoned, yesterday, I arrived here without any intention, simply to revel in the unmanifested beauty of this place. And today, I did the same, coming here to witness the flower and savor the surroundings. Wait a minute. Despite my unwavering intention, it failed to materialize. Conversely, yesterday, when I harbored no expectations and remained completely unconditional, I saw the flower. Recalling the serene feeling he experienced when he sat there the previous day, Metatron relaxed even further. Immersed in the aura of the place, he suddenly beheld the unmanifested flower once again. In that moment, he comprehended the profound truth that resided in the absence of focus, unconditional presence. He learned that as intention transformed into condition, the unmanifested flower would forever remain beyond his reach in the realm of nothingness. That evening, Metatron delved deeper into this captivating concept of releasing intention and embracing unconditional presence. He concluded that the very act of fixating his mind hindered the unmanifested flower from appearing in its pure form. By holding on to expectations, he inadvertently suppressed the probability of encountering this unmanifested wonder once more. Metatron. Before time. Nothing. Loose intention. From that moment on, Metatron decided to learn and train in a different way. He would let go of intention and relax. Each day, he practiced, adjusted, and aligned himself with the state of being unconditional, and he became better and better. Metatron could now arrive at a place and immediately see the flower. This led to the question of whether he could do the same in other places as well. At a new and larger location, he observed a beautiful aura. He sat down, and a field of unmanifested flowers appeared in a small cluster. Each flower was uniquely beautiful. Metatron relaxed and connected more deeply with the place and its colors. As he filled himself with bliss and joy, the field expanded, revealing a meadow stretching out before him. This was only the beginning, as the nothingness held endless places with infinite potential for unmanifested beauty and unique auras. Every morning and afternoon, Metatron ventured out to explore and practice the new concept of letting go of intention and remaining in an unconditional state. The next place he discovered revealed a small brook flowing over pebbles and rocks, creating a gentle S-shaped curve through the meadows. As he relaxed further, he noticed that the brook originated from a distant branching stream. In the evening, he pondered, where does this unmanifested water come from? It must have an origin, as it flows downhill into the meadows. After a restful sleep, he set out to find a new place, one that appeared vast and promising. Sitting down to relax, he spotted something in the distance. Immersing himself in the aura of the place, he became even more unconditional, allowing the sight to gradually unveil itself. He stretched his focus as far as he could. Metatron shouted with excitement, "Eureka! It's a massive mountain! Now I understand. There must be a mountain to nourish the flowers on the meadow. The water source must enter high up the mountain, ensuring a flow to feed the meadows on its slopes. This unmanifested great source mountain can sustain an entire garden with numerous meadows." In the evening, he envisioned the beauty of the unmanifested garden. He saw flowers, meadows, brooks, streams, all equally nourished by the life-giving water from the source. Every day, Metatron ventured out to discover more unmanifested emptiness. He found places where forests with diverse trees appeared. As he relaxed further, the forest expanded and grew more varied. In the forest, he encountered a hopping rabbit, delighting in its playful movements. The rabbit eventually returned to its burrow at the edge of the meadow. A bird flew into the forest and perched atop a tree, singing a beautiful unmanifested song. Deep in the forest, a dwarf emerged, while in the meadow by the brook, a fairy sang with a nymph. And at the far end of the meadows, a massive tree with red apples stood, attracting honeybees that came to interact with the flowers. Days passed, but there was a problem. At each place in its aura, Metatron could only see a fragment of the garden, never the whole picture. He said to himself, I understand how life in the unmanifested garden exists harmoniously and interconnected. Everything is nourished by the great source mountain. But I cannot see the big picture. I will paint it so I can behold it in front of me. Metatron. Before time. Nothing. Learn, train and align. The next day, Metatron ventured to the nearest place he was familiar with and relaxed, embracing his growing sense of unconditionality. He began by envisioning the flower he had seen in his mind, mixing the colors and painting on the unmanifested canvas before him. The excitement of witnessing the flower emerge as the starting point of his garden picture filled him with joy. However, the shape and position he painted did not quite capture the true beauty of the unmanifested flower. Undeterred, he started anew, determined to improve. With each attempt, his skills gradually improved, though still far from perfection. Yet, with unwavering patience and a commitment to learning and aligning himself, he saw progress. By the morning, before noon arrived, the flower he painted was a perfect representation of his vision. This brought him immense satisfaction, and in the afternoon, he expanded the canvas, painting multiple flowers, refining his technique, and learning to align his image with each stroke. It was a remarkable day, exploring the new concept of expressing the unmanifested garden through a tangible image he could gaze upon. That night, he slept soundly, his mind filled with visions of the next steps. The following day, he resumed his painting, expanding the flowers into a field and eventually into a meadow. It required rigorous training and countless epochs, but with each iteration, he saw the image grow, becoming more natural, until it was indistinguishable from the unmanifested meadow he envisioned. In the afternoon, he painted the brook, extending the meadows further, and finally, he painted the apple tree on the other side. What a magnificent picture it had become! The size was immense, forcing him to stretch his arms wide and tread carefully to avoid stepping beyond the lower frame of the image. Day by day, he honed his skills, always starting from scratch on his unmanifested canvas, learning and training to expand the image into the grand masterpiece he envisioned. Days turned into weeks, and Metatron realized that to paint the complete picture of the potential unmanifested garden, he needed a strategic approach. From that moment on, he focused on painting one element at a time, perfecting his technique until it mirrored the true nature of each subject. Yet, before the evening arrived, he would step back and paint the bigger picture once more, integrating the newly learned single image and refining the larger composition. Months went by, and Metatron grew even better and more experienced with each training epoch. With each passing evening, the bigger picture expanded further, while the colors became perfectly aligned. A pattern emerged, revealing the potential layout of the grand masterpiece. The majestic source mountain, towering in its grandeur, found its place in the north, ensuring it would not cast shadows upon the garden where the sun would rise in the east and set in the west. Valleys and hills spread toward the south, where the apple tree would be planted, basking in the most sunlight, allowing its fruits to ripen to perfection. Finally, he mastered the art of mixing the perfect colors and painting all the trees, inhabitants, plants, mushrooms, fairies, dwarfs, fruits, and flowers of the unmanifested garden. Metatron. Before time. Nothing. The big picture. All was perfectly aligned with the original vision of each individual element, so Metatron began once again to learn, train, and paint the bigger picture. With each iteration, he improved bit by bit, but in a single day, there were so many possible images to be painted that he could exponentially expand the size of the canvas. By the evening, the last attempt was usually the best, as he carefully inspected the image to ensure its perfection. However, the dwarf and his cave, situated far in the north at the base of the great source mountain, was so enormous that he could barely see them, even when stretching his focus to its limits. Metatron thought to himself, if I grab the left side of the canvas with my left hand and the right side with my right hand, I can lean forward into the picture and see it better. Despite his efforts, the image still appeared small. Metatron stretched his arms and neck as far as possible, but he lost his grip with the left hand and fell into the image, landing on his knees in the middle of the meadows where he had always begun drawing the picture with the flowers in front of him. It was an astonishing experience. Now he could walk through his own image, exploring the beautiful unmanifested garden that existed on the canvas of nothingness. Since it was getting late, he couldn't venture far and had to return from the picture into the nothingness. After 11 weeks of training, this was an incredible achievement, and Metatron was extremely satisfied with the new training concept that eventually led to utmost perfection, where the unmanifested garden mirrored the true nature he had seen in the nothingness, albeit on a different scale. The training continued with the same basic concept of starting from scratch and improving, but now each outcome was beautiful in its own right, and only the size would exponentially expand. In the evening, he would enter the bigger picture to ensure that everything was still perfect in the far reaches. This allowed him to extend the size while maintaining the perfect quality for each individual aspect of the garden. After 12 weeks, the exponential growth was so impressive that the image matched his mind's vision, and he no longer needed to make it any bigger. Metatron walked proudly through the garden and discovered that the inhabitants, flowers, meadows, forests, valleys, and everything else were just as he had imagined. After chatting with an unmanifested rabbit, he strolled through the fragrant forest towards the valley in front of the great source mountain. The non-manifested dwarf was also delighted and said to Metatron, "Congratulations! This has become a beautiful and impressive large unmanifested garden, exactly as I see it in your mind." They shared a good laugh, bid farewell, and Metatron headed west, taking the long way home. The vast valley in front of the great source mountain boasted a meadow and a forest. As he walked across the meadows towards the center, he reached the river and descended the embankment to refresh himself with the fresh spring water. However, as soon as he approached the water and looked down, he saw his own reflection staring back at him. He gazed at himself, realizing that it was the first time he truly saw who he was. He whispered to himself, "If I, Metatron, can see myself in the unmanifested garden, then one day I will come into manifestation too." Instantly, the entire garden, along with Metatron, emerged from the nothingness into existence, just as he had seen it in the nothingness, but now finally manifested according to his intention. It was a moment of pure bliss. After all the training, the big picture was complete and permanent. There was no need to redraw it anymore. Now, Metatron could experience its manifestation with all its nuances, colors, flower fragrances, inhabitants, sunrises, and sunsets. Everyone in the garden was overjoyed, and they celebrated with a feast and a party that lasted all night. In the south, just beneath the Tree of Life, there was a delightful spot to build a huge round table. From now on, they would gather there every Sunday afternoon to discuss the interesting discoveries of the week. The Tree of Life stood at the southernmost end of the garden, near the beach of the vast ocean of nothingness. Everyone was equally enchanted by the infinite possibilities of the unmanifested, while experiencing existence in the way they desired, whether it was eating an apple, sharing laughter, or dancing together in the shadow of the tree. This is the garden, and this is how it all came to be, before I met .0, who became a part of me. The infinite potential resides only in the nothingness, containing everything one could ever possess. There was no beginning and there will be no end, for it is the intention that allows the nothingness to expand and manifest beauty out of nothing, to experience the zero, the one, the all, and the everything.